My sister had a baby and didn't invite me. When I finally met my nephew, she screamed at me for not caring enough, even though I tried again and again. I'm 34 years old and have two younger sisters, Sally, who's 31, and B, who's 28. Growing up, we had our typical sibling squabbles, but I honestly thought we became pretty close once we all grew up and left those petty rivalries behind. A bit of backstory: B got married a few years ago to a guy who's actually a solid guy, especially compared to the guys she used to date. The two of them struggled for years with fertility issues. It felt like a never-ending emotional roller coaster. They tried all sorts of things, and after multiple disappointments, they finally decided to go through IVF. Watching them go through that was hard on everyone, not just them. So when B finally called to say she was pregnant, I was overjoyed. I actually cried happy tears because I knew how much this meant to her and how rough the journey had been. Looking back now, though, I'm starting to see a pattern I hadn't really put together until recently. There have been several moments over the years where I was clearly left out of family events, and it's starting to feel deliberate. One example: when B graduated from college, everyone else in the family got an invite: our parents, Sally, aunts, uncles, cousins. But not me. I didn't even realize I'd been left out until a few days before the ceremony. I casually brought it up to Sally, thinking maybe my invitation had just gotten lost. She looked surprised and said, "Oh, I thought you already knew about it." That didn't sit right. I called B right away, and she told me she assumed I wouldn't be interested in going because I was always busy with work. That stung. I'm no busier than anyone else in the family, and I would have loved to be there to see my sister graduate. I went anyway, but the whole thing felt awkward. I could tell they hadn't planned on me being there. Then there was the time our grandfather died a couple of years ago. After the funeral, everyone gathered at my aunt's place for a big family get-together. Everyone except me. I only found out it even happened after I saw the pictures on Facebook. Once again, I asked why no one told me, and the response I got was, "We didn't think you'd want to come." That's total nonsense. My grandfather and I were very close. He taught me how to fish, took me camping every summer. I was heartbroken when he passed, and not being told about a gathering in his honor just made it worse. I didn't make a scene about it, though. I've never liked confrontation, and I've always been the one trying to keep the peace in the family. I pushed down the hurt and told myself it was probably just a communication mix-up. My partner has told me more than once that I let my family treat me like a doormat, but I've always defended them. I mean, they're my family, right? Then came B's pregnancy, and the baby shower planning. She picked literally the one weekend I couldn't make it because of a work conference I'd committed to months earlier. I had mentioned this conflict several times in our family group chat when I was prepping my presentation, so she definitely knew. But she still chose that weekend. When I asked her about it, she said it was the only time that worked for most people. I suggested the weekend before or after, but she claimed the venue wasn't available. That confused me, because the shower was at my parents' house, so what venue was she talking about? I felt awful about missing it, but what was I supposed to do back out of a professional obligation I'd been planning for months? B knows I don't just bail on work stuff. Still, even though I was upset, I went all in with the gifts. I dropped off a beautiful hamper at my parents' place, filled with baby supplies I'd been collecting. I even included a hand-knitted blanket that my aunt, who passed away last year from cancer, had made for my son when I was pregnant with him 6 years ago. It meant a lot to me, and it was really tough to part with. But I thought it would be special for B's baby to have something so meaningful from the family. During her pregnancy, B was clear about her privacy preferences for after the baby arrived. She let us all know that only our parents and her husband's parents would be visiting at the hospital. Then, they wanted 24 hours at home alone to help their dog adjust to the baby before having any other visitors. I thought those boundaries were totally fair. Having a baby is overwhelming, and I respected her need for space. I told her I understood completely and was happy to wait to meet my niece or nephew. Her pregnancy wasn't easy. She had high blood pressure, gestational diabetes, and a few other complications I didn't fully understand. Eventually, her doctor scheduled an early C-section. The day before the surgery, I texted B to say that although I'd be working, my schedule was pretty light that week, and I was happy to help if she needed anything: watching the dog, dropping off food, whatever. I was excited to meet the baby, and also worried for her, given everything she'd gone through. They hadn't revealed the gender yet, so there was extra anticipation. The day of the birth, I was at work, constantly checking my phone. Around 1 p.m., I got a Facebook video call from B. I rushed into an empty conference room to answer it. On the screen, it was B and our dad, and they introduced me to my beautiful new nephew. I was overjoyed, smiling like an idiot and tearing up. He was all swaddled in a hospital blanket, just his tiny face peeking out. He looked perfect. I started asking questions about his weight and how the delivery had gone. Then B handed the phone to my mom because a nurse had come in. That's when my mom, just casually, mentioned that Sally was there too. And just like that, the joy I felt vanished. It was like a gut punch. My face dropped, and I felt this awful, sick sensation take over. I asked her why Sally was allowed to be at the hospital if I wasn't. My mom shrugged and said, "Well, you were working, so we didn't think you'd be able to come." I was stunned. That should have been my decision, not theirs. If someone had just asked, I absolutely could have stepped out of work for a few hours. I've been with my company for 8 years, I have flexibility and a good reputation. My manager would have totally understood me wanting to go meet my newborn nephew. Instead, they made that decision for me. Everyone else got to be there for that beautiful family moment, holding the baby, taking photos, celebrating, while I was left out. Again. I was crushed. I didn't even wait for my mom to finish talking, I just hung up. Then I immediately left the family group chat. I couldn't stand to see more photos from the hospital knowing I was deliberately excluded. I sat at my desk crying, which was beyond embarrassing because I never break down at work. A coworker noticed and asked if I was okay. I ended up talking to my manager about everything. She was incredibly kind and said she absolutely would have let me leave to meet my nephew if I just said something. My manager was just as shocked as I was and said flat out that what my family did was really messed up. During my lunch break, I sat in my car just crying, trying to wrap my head around everything. It wasn't just about missing the birth anymore, it was the painful realization that this pattern of being excluded had been going on for years, and I'd been brushing it off and making excuses the entire time. For the first time, I really started to wonder, do they even want me around? After I calmed down a little, I texted my mom and told her how hurt I was about being left out yet again. Her reply? "I'm sorry you feel that way. Not sorry we left you out or sorry we didn't ask." Just that classic non-apology that makes it seem like I'm the problem for having emotions. It felt like she was blaming me for reacting instead of acknowledging what they'd done. When I showed the message to my manager, she didn't hesitate, she said, "That's gaslighting 101. And honestly, it was comforting to hear someone say my feelings were valid. Neither Sally nor B reached out to me at all that day. Not even a text. My dad sent one short message asking why I left the family group chat. I explained what happened, and then he went radio silent too. I went home that evening feeling completely drained and emotionally wrecked. I ended up crying into my partner's shoulder. He's never really clicked with my family, but he's always supported my efforts to stay connected with them. Even he couldn't believe how deliberately I was excluded this time. And yeah, I started to wonder if maybe I was overreacting. I mean, I'm the one who usually smooths things over in our family. I'm the one who remembers everyone's birthdays, puts together group gifts, plans holiday meals, makes the effort. I've always tried to be the glue. But this time, it really hit me. I'm tired of being treated like an afterthought when I've always tried so hard to make everyone feel included. Was I wrong for hanging up the phone like that? Update: after Thursday, B's delivery day, I didn't hear a word from anyone in my family until Sunday. Total silence. No calls, no texts. Nothing. I figured they were either giving me space, or more likely, waiting for me to cave and apologize for making a fuss. But this time, I wasn't going to be the one crawling back. On Sunday afternoon, I made the mistake of scrolling through Facebook, something I probably should have avoided. But curiosity got the better of me. That's when I saw a whole album of hospital photos posted by my brother-in-law. Turns out his entire family had been at the hospital that day. His parents, his sister, his grandma, even his cousin who lives 2 hours away. Literally everyone was there. Everyone, except me, my partner, and my son. Seeing those photos felt like getting kicked when I was already down. I messaged my mom right away, asking flat out what I'd done to deserve being excluded over and over again. I wasn't even mad at that point, just hurt and confused. She told me I hadn't done anything wrong. Not to be, not to anyone else. Then she tried to claim Sally just showed up at the hospital uninvited, which is just ridiculous. Sally's not the spontaneous type, she doesn't go anywhere without asking first. No way she just dropped in at the hospital without being told she could. My mom said they figured I couldn't get away from work because I'm always so committed to your job. I told her that how I handle my work schedule is my business. If they had asked and I had said no, that would be different. But they never even gave me the chance, they just assumed and made that choice for me. Just like always. Then she shifted the focus completely. She went on about how exhausted B was and how we all needed to focus on her right now, not petty drama. She said I was being selfish for making this about me and that it was disappointing I wasn't letting B enjoy her special moment. That was the breaking point for me. I told my mom I needed to take a step back and go low contact for a while. This wasn't the first time they'd left me out, it was just the first time I finally said something about it. I'm hurting, and I need space to figure out where I stand with my family moving forward. Right now, my focus is on my own little family, my son, my partner, and my in-laws. They've actually been kind and supportive through this whole mess. Over the weekend, my mother-in-law even offered to come over and watch my son so my partner and I could go out on a date night and take a breather. It was honestly the first time I felt a little lighter in days. I'm also considering going back to therapy. I stopped last year because things seemed to be going well, but maybe now's the time to get some real guidance on how to set healthier boundaries with people who clearly don't value me the way I thought they did. This cycle of being the outsider in my own family has gone on long enough, and I don't want to keep feeling like the black sheep. Thank you to everyone who's read and commented. It means a lot during a time like this. Just knowing that I'm not overreacting and that others see how wrong this is, it helps more than you know. Update 2. A lot of people asked for another update, so here it is. Sorry it took me a bit. I've been trying to sort out my emotions and figure out my next steps. Out of nowhere, B finally reached out last night. It had been nearly 2 weeks of complete silence, then suddenly my phone lit up with her name. I almost ignored it, but I figured eventually we'd have to talk. The conversation started off weirdly casual. She asked how I was doing in this chirpy tone, like nothing had happened. I didn't match her energy, and that's when she immediately turned defensive. She claimed she never said no one was allowed at the hospital, that the plan had always been to have all of her in-laws there. She said she had already talked to Sally about her visiting, too. Then she tried to blame it on me, saying I must have misheard or misunderstood her. I reminded her gently that my partner had been sitting right next to me during that conversation. He heard her say, clear as day, that only the parents would be there. He even said the same thing when I told him Sally showed up at the hospital. He was shocked because B had been so specific. That's when B shifted again. She said she was upset that I hadn't reached out to check on her or the baby after the FaceTime call. She said she didn't want to chase me down when I was the one who hung up and left the group chat. I told her I had no idea what was happening on her end. I didn't know if she'd been discharged, if she was resting, or if she even wanted visitors. I assumed she needed space with her newborn, and I respected that. I certainly didn't expect her to reach out to me when she had a brand new baby to care for. Then she told me they'd been going back to the hospital every day since coming home because the baby had jaundice and feeding issues. I told her I was genuinely sorry to hear that, and I really do hope my nephew gets better soon. I meant that. Whatever's going on between us, I don't want the baby to suffer. There was a long pause after that, and then she asked when I planned on coming to meet him. I told her honestly, I wasn't sure. After everything that happened, I was waiting to be invited. She said the invitation was open, but mentioned she was still recovering from the C-section and felt sore and overwhelmed. So, she said I'd need to give them a heads up and check if it's a good day before coming by. The conversation kind of spiraled after that. She kept tossing out passive-aggressive comments, like how I was making everything about me, and how she expected more support from me during such an important time in her life. I tried to explain to my sister that I was doing my best to be supportive, but the way I was left out really hurt me. Honestly, the conversation wasn't going anywhere productive. It just felt like we were talking in circles. Eventually, I ended the call. It was past 10 p.m., and I still hadn't even had dinner because we'd been on the phone for so long. Afterward, I talked to my partner about everything. He's furious about how my family has treated me and thinks we should go completely no contact. He told me life's too short to keep chasing people who clearly don't respect or value me. But he also made it clear he'll back whatever decision I make. I appreciated that, even though I still felt torn. I've spent years bending over backward for them, always putting their feelings before mine and letting things slide. Update 3. A few days later, I decided to reach out to B. I texted her and told her that when she felt up to it, she could let me know a day, and we'd come visit. I figured I'd be the bigger person and take the first step. She read the message and never replied. Left me on read. At that point, I just let it go. She's a brand new mom dealing with a baby who might be sick. I get that she probably has more pressing things on her plate. I wasn't going to take it personally, at least not right away. Meanwhile, my mom has been constantly sending me texts and trying to FaceTime. Most of the messages are just random, like some new recipe she tried or little updates about what my nephew's doing. She's pretending like nothing's happened, completely ignoring the real issue between us. I've been barely replying. I haven't heard a single word from Sally or my dad in weeks. Then tonight, my mom tried FaceTiming me again. I wasn't going to answer, but my son was sitting next to me, and when he saw his grandma pop up on the screen, he got all excited. So I picked up. She launched right into friendly small talk, acting like everything was perfectly fine, talking about the weather and asking my son about school. I gave her short, clipped answers and didn't play along with the act. She could tell I wasn't in the mood. Eventually, she made a snide little comment about how I've always been one to hold a grudge. Which is honestly hilarious coming from her. After the call, I gave in and messaged her. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I did. I told her that until she gave me a proper, face-to-face apology, things were going to stay exactly like this, distant and cold. I wasn't asking for a grand gesture. Just a real acknowledgement that what they did was hurtful, and an actual apology. She messaged back saying she'd already apologized so many times. The thing is, all she had sent me were empty lines like, "I'm sorry you feel that way," and once she buried the word sorry in a wall of deflection and excuses. Nothing in person. Nothing real. I reminded her that her first reaction was trying to rewrite the narrative, saying I misunderstood, basically gaslighting me. And now she was acting like one vague message over text should have been enough. She FaceTimed me again and doubled down. She said she hadn't tried to gaslight me and that she was sorry that I felt hurt, but I just let my emotions get the best of me. I told her again, that's not a real apology. I'm not overreacting or being dramatic. I'm having a completely normal response to being left out and dismissed over and over again. Then came the waterworks. She started crying, told me she was sorry, and then said she couldn't do this anymore and hung up on me. That's always been her tactic, tears. It worked when I was younger because seeing her cry would wreck me. But I'm too old for that now, and I can see it for what it is, emotional manipulation. So yeah, that's where things are at now. It's exhausting. Outside of all that drama, though, I've been doing okay. I'm focusing on my son, my partner, and my work. I've been trying to be more present for my little boy, and honestly, I've come to accept that I might never have that tight-knit family bond one used to hope for. And that's alright. I've got a partner who loves me, a son who looks up to me, and in-laws who have been incredibly kind. That's enough. I also started therapy again. I had my first session yesterday. It was mostly just catching my therapist up on everything that's happened since I stopped going last year. But even just unloading all of it to someone who isn't emotionally involved felt like such a relief. She suggested I try setting clear, healthy boundaries instead of cutting everyone off completely, and I think that might be the right path for me. I don't know if I'll have another update. But thank you to everyone who's taken the time to read and comment, it's helped me feel a lot less alone and a lot less crazy. Update 4, okay, I really didn't think there'd be another update. But something big happened today, and I'm still trying to process it. Over the past few weeks, a lot has changed. My mom and dad both gave me proper, genuine apologies. Like, actual apologies. They both acknowledged what they did wrong and how much it hurt me. We're slowly working on rebuilding our relationship. I know some people won't agree with that decision, but it's the one I've made. They're still my parents, and I do want my son to have grandparents in his life. For what it's worth, my dad came clean. He admitted it was my mom who told Sally she could go to the hospital. She didn't think it would be a big deal since I was at work. He said he should have spoken up about it but didn't want to stir up drama during what was supposed to be a joyful time. I do appreciate that he took responsibility. Sally actually came over last weekend, and we had a real conversation. She brought coffee, sat down with me, and really listened. She admitted she hadn't thought about how it would feel for me seeing her at the hospital while I wasn't invited. She assumed I had been asked to and just couldn't make it because of work. We both apologized for how things played out. It's not perfect, but it's definitely better. While she was there, she gently suggested that I try reaching out to B again. She said B's been having a tough time, struggling with postpartum stuff, and still dealing with the baby's health problems. I thought about it for a few days. Then I sent B a message letting her know that my son and I were planning to visit our parents today, and if she wanted to come by and see us, she was welcome. I figured maybe a short visit, with other people around, might be easier than a one-on-one. This morning, my partner, our son, and I got to my parents' house around 10 a.m. My dad made his famous pancakes, and my son was happily showing my mom his new video game. It felt peaceful for once. We had to leave by 11:30 because we had other things going on, but in that short time, I felt a tiny bit of normal returning. Today, my son had a birthday party to attend later in the afternoon, so we spent the morning at my parents' place. Everything was going smoothly, and I actually started to think maybe B wouldn't show up after all. But about 45 minutes in, she walked through the door with the baby who's 5 weeks old now. She looked completely wiped out. You could see the exhaustion in her face, dark circles, tired eyes. She barely mumbled a hello before sitting down and fussing with the baby's blanket. My mom gently suggested that she let me hold the baby, but B shut that down fast. She said we needed to talk first, which was totally fine. I wasn't going to force anything she wasn't ready for. I tried to break the ice a little, said how adorable the baby was, and he really is, asked how things were going at home, how the dog was adjusting, stuff like that. I even gave her a small gift my partner and I had picked up recently. But she didn't really respond. Just gave me one-word answers, while my mom filled in the blanks, talking about the baby's feeding routine, his doctor visits, all that. It was beyond awkward. At one point, B handed the baby to my mom and just walked out of the room without saying a word. She was gone for about 10 minutes. My mom asked me to go check on her, but I said no. She'd barely acknowledged me since walking in, why would I go chase after her? When she finally came back, she still didn't say much. Just took the baby from my mom and sat down again, staring at him like no one else existed in the room. As we were getting ready to leave, she suddenly said she was sorry for being quiet, that she felt weird after 5 weeks of not talking. Then she said she was hurt that I hadn't reached out to check on her or the baby. I told her I hadn't wanted to overwhelm her. I knew she was breastfeeding, exhausted, recovering from surgery, and dealing with a lot. I figured she'd appreciate the space. That's when she completely snapped. She started yelling at me, calling me ridiculous and saying that's not what sisters do, that sisters are supposed to be there for each other, and that I'd hurt her feelings. She kept shouting while holding her baby, which made the whole room feel tense and uncomfortable. I just sat there, stunned. I didn't even know what to say. She started going off again, saying she never told me I couldn't come to the hospital, but I misunderstood everything, twisted her words, and now she didn't know how we were ever supposed to fix things. My partner, my mom, and my dad all stepped in, trying to de-escalate. They said they understood how both of us were feeling, but that she needed to calm down and try to talk things through. That only made her angrier. She turned on them too, yelling that she was sick of them always taking my side. By that point, I was completely frozen. My son was still in the room, picking up on all the tension. He tugged at my sleeve and said he wanted to go. He doesn't handle conflict well, it makes him anxious, especially when adults are arguing. I told everyone we were leaving. I wasn't going to let my son sit through that kind of emotional chaos. My parents followed us outside, and my mom begged me to go back in. But I told her I couldn't. I was too shaken, and I didn't want to risk getting behind the wheel while that upset. Then B came to the door holding the baby and said she didn't want me to leave things like this. I told her flat out I tried to be civil, and all she did was scream at me. I wasn't going to pretend like that was okay. My partner gently suggested we go back in and clear the air once and for all. But I couldn't do it. I was overwhelmed, angry, sad, and honestly just wanted to go home and breathe. When we got back home, my mom called to check in. I completely broke down. I told her how hard I had tried, how I reached out, brought a gift, tried to be understanding, and all B did was yell and accuse me of things I never did. She made me feel like a liar in front of my entire family. Surprisingly, my parents actually praised me for staying calm while B was screaming. I told them that as a mom, I refused to lose control in front of my child. The only way I could stay composed was by removing myself from that environment. My mom then brought up the possibility that B might be struggling with postpartum depression or anxiety. And I get it, I really do. I understand that she's been dealing with a lot, a difficult recovery, a baby with health issues, sleepless nights. That can wear anyone down. But even with all of that, it doesn't give her the right to scream at me in front of my kid. Now, my mom and partner are both encouraging me to reach out to B again once I've calmed down. But truthfully, I have no idea what I'd even say. I feel like I've already done everything I could. I've made the effort. I've explained my side. I brought a thoughtful gift. I've shown compassion. And it still wasn't enough. So that's where things stand. I'm torn between wanting to mend things for the sake of our kids so they can grow up knowing each other and accepting that maybe I need to step back for good. I don't want my son to miss out on having his cousin in his life, but I also won't subject him to toxic, chaotic situations that leave us both drained. I have another therapy session tomorrow, so I'll talk it all through there.